Did they do that in front of you, or they did it with you not there?
Well, they ask you to come inside, have some popcorn, and they'll go evaluate your vehicle.
They made it almost too easy. It's almost like, in Amazon where you can click the button and then you just end up buying. You're like, I did buy.
I'm still in the return window, right? So they're sending me all these things, and they'll put the pressure in my heart. When I look up, there are no less than 5 salespeople running across this lot. So we're going to start with a resident expert here, somebody who has a story for us about Carvana. What can you tell us about Carvana?
Before we even get into that, I just want to take a moment to say, dealers, I'm sorry. When I was in the process of buying a vehicle a couple of years back, I tried to reach out to you, and I wanted to have the experience where I could buy the car 100% online, but I kept getting this friction and this pushback. And even though that I've been in this industry for so long and been doing this for so long, I wasn't getting what I needed. So I turned to Carvana. And a lot of people called me a traitor. I did a post about this and I got a lot of slack, a lot of pushback, but I don't regret it, and here's why. So honestly, the experience was great. They pulled up with the vehicle. I searched for it on Phillip. Let me step back. I searched for the car on their website. I got a 2-door Mercedes convertible. This was pre-kids. And, it pulled up. It came off the little truck. I had the opportunity to test drive it for 7 days. And then after that 7th day, I was hooked. It was just such a great experience from top to finish. The whole thing was done remotely. I just had to sign on the dotted line. And honestly, this is the type of experience that dealers should be wanting to give their customers, especially if they're asking for it. It's one thing to push everybody through that if they don't want it. But if your customer's coming to you and saying, hey, I want to buy a car online, or I want to do things before I get to the dealership, let them. Don't be the friction point. Let them do that. And I feel like the Carvana experience that I had showed me that there is a market for that, because I had a great experience, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for dealers to take advantage of that.
So that's interesting, because do you feel that everybody has that same frictionless experience with Carvana? Do you know of anybody else? Are they experiencing the same thing? Like, is it replicatable, if that's a word, across all of their sales?
So I've heard, because I'm in this industry, that a lot of people do have issues in certain states where there's certain issues around registration. I've heard that there's been delays on getting your registration, and that part makes it to be a friction point. But for me, it was actually really easy, really simple. But I did it in California, which was probably one of the states that they unlocked first when they were like, let's do this, let's get California going. So I don't know. I think it's going to depend on where the customer is located. But for dealers, I still think that they should look at what Carvana is doing, from the transparency part of it, the frictionless part of it, the seamless, the digital part of it, and try to replicate as many of those factors as possible. That's going to ultimately give dealers and consumers a better experience.
That makes sense. From what I think about with Carvana, I think of a younger buyer who's more internet savvy, really doesn't want to spend a lot of time, wants to get in and out of their vehicle quickly. So congratulations on the youth compliment there.
I may
You're
have
one of
a
those
bump
buyers.
for you.
Oh, snap.
It's Barry and Mills. It's my dad.
Oh, really?
So he recently, he's probably gonna watch this. So he's more seasoned. He's up there, and he's probably he's very tech savvy. And for him, when he's bought a lot of vehicles over the course of his life, so he's kind of the same way. He doesn't want to test drive. He doesn't really care about that. He cares about getting in, getting out, and moving quickly. And he's, I think, bought and sold maybe 6, 7 cars with Carvana. So for somebody like him, it's great, even though he is more seasoned.
Okay. Seasoned is the word we're using now.
Seasoned.
Okay. Seasoned. What I'd like to hear about, and what I've kind of experienced, is they don't push back on you on every small detail.
No, not at all.
And so did you trade in a car when you were purchasing yours? How was that experience?
All I had to do was take a couple pictures of it, upload the miles, the VIN, and I lied, of course. I said that my car was perfect. Do you guys do that, right? I said that the car was perfect. There was no issues. There were some issues. And
It only had 3 tires.
I mean, they didn't do a deep dive, and even if they did later, they didn't come back to me and say, you lied and, give me the money. No, they actually were like, this looks good, this checks out, and they made it seamless and easy, which I wish more dealers would do.
So in my dealership brain, I've got so many questions,
Okay.
because
Shoot.
when somebody would come in and trade in a vehicle,
Yeah.
right, first thing is like, okay, great, here's a water. I'm going to go and tear that car to shreds. I'm looking at your tire tread. I'm checking to see if there's dents or dings. I'm looking at interior leather. I'm going through and checking out all of these different pieces to use it as a negotiation tool for me to say, hey, this is what your car is worth, and here's what I can buy it at. But for Carvana, it's like you put in all your stuff online and they're like, trust fall, we believe you. Is that real?
It is real, and I think the reason why they do that is they know if we can do that, we're gonna get more customers to want to trade in vehicles,
Mhm.
and then, maybe they have really good recon or a way that they can get these cars ready to go for the next customer so that they don't mind if they take a little bit of a loss there where a dealer may be trying to squeeze as much as they can out of the orange, but Carvana's like, I'd rather get the volume as opposed to trying to nitpick everything here or there, and that makes me slow, where this makes me fast, and then now I can work with more people.
Interesting, because
That's my theory.
you probably also need less people to run Carvana. Like if we're doing a per capita for each car sold, you probably need fewer bodies to get that car back out burning gas again than you do for a traditional dealership. So they
Probably.
might save money there.
Yeah, I think so.
One of the things that I saw, because I recently used Carvana to negotiate with a dealership, which is something.
Really?
Oh,
Talk to
yeah.
me about that. How did that go?
So I had the Ram that I was trading in. It was a beauty. It was a 21 Laramie, long bed. Anyway, long story. And I needed to trade it in because I had another vehicle that was coming into our family, and I no longer needed to just pay money for a vehicle.
Right.
And so I went on Carvana and I went on their website, and there had been some weird things that had happened. Some squirrels had chewed through the bed lining in the back at one point in my driveway, so there was like a blemish there. There was a small dent from where somebody in my family decided to run over a mailbox, but the mailbox lost, the Ram won, and so it wasn't that big. When I went on Carvana's website, I saw two things. One, they're like, tell us the condition of your vehicle. And I said, well, it's still in very good condition because those two things are superficial blemishes. That shouldn't be a big issue.
You mentioned those, you disclosed?
I disclosed one of them.
You're better than me.
Yeah, I told half a lie, right? So 50% honesty is still honesty. And so I did that. And then when I went to their website and I was looking at vehicles, it said at the bottom, our vehicles have minor blemishes or scratches, and that's why our vehicles can be priced lower. It was like a disclaimer they had where we talk about that transparency. They're like, there might be some things, but the vehicle runs, it drives, and it's going to be fine. And so when I think about recon, they're probably not going through the recon process to get all of that stuff out.
No, they're not as concerned about it because they're like, you see it, it's like an as is
Yeah.
situation.
And what's crazy is when you put your vehicle valuation in, Carvana does this really interesting thing with my mind. So I didn't want to trade it in because I know everything about the car business. They send me an email every week. They're like, yo, your car value just dropped
You
$4,000.
do that
And
too?
you're like, what? I'm like, no, 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 give it back. I'm like, I'm still in return window, right? So they're sending me all these things, and it put the pressure in my heart. Like I felt it, and I was like, I need to get rid of this truck now. I don't care if it was my dream.
They created emotion within you.
They really did. They built it up, and it was nothing that they were trying to force on me. They're just like, surprised you lost some more money. Do you like that feeling? Talk to you later. And you're like, no, Carvana, please.
Right.
And so I took my original offer with me when I went to the dealership to trade it in. And the dealership did all those same things, right? Measuring the tires, blah, blah, blah. And they don't know that I work in the business.
Did they do that in front of you or they did it with you not there?
Well, they ask you to come inside, have some popcorn, and they'll go evaluate your vehicle.
And you're like,
And then they
try
come
to make
back
a
in.
bunch.
Yeah, they like watch the guy walk over to the sales tower, talk to his manager, print out something, and bring it over to me. They brought it over to me, and they're like, "Okay, this is what we can give you." And it was 3,000 light of what Carvana offered me.
So you were like,
Right.
honor the sheet.
But if I am a regular car buyer who hasn't worked in the industry for 10 plus years,
Yeah.
I don't know all of these tricks. So they're going to get away with an extra 3 Gs. And not every dealership is like that, but that is a possibility. And I said to them, I didn't even need my sheet. I was like, cool. That's actually not what Carvana offered. And the guy's like, well, you might not have known about this blemish or that. I was like, actually, I do. This hit a mailbox. This is where squirrels chewed through it. And I've never towed with this vehicle. So, when you're looking at a truck, one of the biggest things is how they beat it up. So I told him that, and his eyes lit up, and he tried to hide it. And I was like, well, now I got you. And
It's
so
not a big deal.
yeah, so he
If
came
you've
back
never
another
towed.
never towed because the transmission doesn't get wear, your engine doesn't get the same amount of wear if you have a transfer case. All of those main chassis components, they get a ton of wear when you're towing things
Oh,
up and down mountains, right? But mine was a glamour truck, which is why I was getting rid of it. I never used it for anything trucky. So I used all of these things in the negotiation. And then when they said, well, we'll give you another $500, I said, cool. And I picked up my paper and I walked out of the dealer. And the guy's like, well, what are you trying to get for it? And I told him, he's like, well, we can't do that. I was like, well, Carvana can, so I'm just going to go sell it to them. And he's like, okay, have a good day. And they did that like last scare tactic. So I pulled out my phone. I started texting my wife that I was going to bring it back and sell it to Carvana. When I look up, there are no less than 5 salespeople running across this lot.
really?
And they're like, we can do the deal for you at that price, right? Because they know that one, they're going to lose out on this truck. They knew what it was worth and they wanted to get it so they could add it to their inventory. But I was going to go and sell that to Carvana if they hadn't matched my offer. Because Carvana was going to come and pick it up from my house, have somebody do the title paperwork, all that stuff.
That's another thing I didn't mention. They love to come to you and make it so
Yeah.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
so easy you have to leave your house.
They have that cool truck with the weird skirts on the tires that I still don't get, but and they have the towers in every downtown city, you know?
But let's kind of leverage that into our next segment. Like, what are some things that dealers can learn from what Carvana is doing and the experience that they are providing to be able to offer that same type of service at their dealership?
So I think the first thing is probably that bespoke treatment that you talked about was buying your car, right? The car comes to me, I get to test drive it. It feels like they already trust me and they're not trying to haggle me,
Right.
right? That build up and it does have an emotional attachment to you
Mm-hmm.
when that happens. Because now you're looking at the car and you're willing to forgive some things, right? If there's a small scratch less than the size of a quarter, you're not concerned because that car's at your house and you're like, oh, I really want it. And then when you see it in your driveway or at your place of residence, that does something to you because now you're envisioning yourself coming home every day, looking at that car at your house. Whereas at the dealer, it's hard to do it. Does it fit in my garage? Am I going to like it? Blah, blah, blah. And let's be honest, once you do an extended test drive, you're probably going to get that vehicle. You've already done your research. Now it feels good. Anything outside of it blowing heat when the air conditioning's on, you're like, okay, I love the way this feels. And Carvana seems to have mastered that. So the question becomes, how can a dealership do this same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say you start with your seasoned customers that have come to you and bought from you multiple times. We all talk about finding equity in vehicles and how we can go and approach them. But just think if you called somebody and you're like, hey, I know that your vehicle is like 7 years old. I've got a new Honda Accord. I just want to drop it off and get your opinion on it. Would you be interested in me bringing it to your house? They bought 3 or 4 cars from you in the past. They feel extra special. You brought it to them. Now they're thinking about buying it. Something with that is could fit into like the dealership model for those specific customers, right? And so how do you leverage that same thing to make it more impactful would be huge.
That's a good point because I don't know any dealers who've done something like that specifically, like looking into their CRM and seeing who's been a previous buyer, multiple vehicles, and then offering them that. I know from like a service standpoint, I've seen some dealers try to get creative with like, hey, you need your car service, we'll come pick it up, we'll drop it off, we'll leave you a loaner. But for buying a new car, that's like a way to like get that person excited about that vehicle.
Yeah. And there's so much data out there that any dealer can access now. There are multiple programs. You could pull this information in. In addition to that, you talk about the frictionless process of
Yes.
buying the car. They come to you with your paperwork, they have you sign it there, and then you leave, right? You don't have to haggle it all out. Their website, when they do, did you do, I'm not sure if you bought it cash or not. I know you're a big Bala Impala,
At
but
that time, there was a loan.
you were like one of us at that time, like a normal.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's good. That's good. Now I feel like it's relatable, but that's the thing. Like you probably filled it out online. You got your approval online. You
Yeah.
knew what you were dealing with. You knew what your payment was going to be. You didn't have that haggling that happens at a dealership that everybody complains about.
No, there was zero back and forth.
Yeah.
It was like, let me enter in my information. Let me get back what I'm approved for. This is what they're going to give me on the trade, and then I could just click yes. So it was like this. It just I was waiting for a moment to be upset, and it didn't come.
That's good.
And it's like I kept going through the process, and I think from start to finish, it maybe took 20 minutes.
Whoa.
I'm not kidding.
The average car deal is between 2 and 6 hours, like usually around 4 hours you're sitting in a dealership. You did this in 20 minutes.
Once I committed that I was going to go through with that vehicle, it was 20 minutes. Now, this is not factoring in the days and hours of time that I spent researching vehicles leading up to that point, which I feel like is understated because so many consumers are doing a ton of research before they actually make their purchase. I know you are somebody who likes to research what they're buying, but yeah, so once I knew what I was going to get, it was about 20 minutes to get through that whole thing. And then they told me you'll be getting your vehicle in 2 days. And then it showed up in 2 days, and that was it.
I mean, it's basically Amazon Prime delivery time, 2 days. And you think about that, the 20 minutes that you're referencing is like everybody's going to research, but that still would have been 4 hours. So you saved a ton of time.
Yeah.
It makes me want to go buy a car right now. That is amazing. And so when you think about that, if they're moving 500,000 units a year, obviously speed to close has to be present. That has to be a part of their process, which is pretty intense. So I guess the question I have for you is, do you think that's going to take over everything, that buying
Mm.
process?
I think that we're moving in that direction. I do think that still there are people who want to touch and feel, which you can still do, but like touch and feel the car and have that experience. But I think it's going to be altered and different and change.
Yeah.
But I think from the psychology standpoint of it, I know for me, I'm the type of person, and I don't know if you're like this, is when I buy something, or sometimes I will just go on a website to like put a bunch of stuff in my shopping cart and then I leave. Just because I like the idea of like, I'm buying this to get the rush of buying. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to commit right now,
Ooh,
but I just want to feel like I bought. So with Carvana, when I bought the vehicle, I could add the car to my like shopping cart, which kind of made me feel like, okay, I'm buying it. And then I continued on. So I don't know if dealers would want to leverage that too.
Yeah, no, I know they don't like that process in a dealership now because, like, if you go in and you choose 5 cars you want, they're trying to whittle you down to 1
Oh, yeah, real
as
quick.
fast as possible. When you rush that process, it can become frustrating. So, for Carvana to be able to let you do that and go, and it doesn't cost them anything.
No, and it doesn't make it difficult. They don't care which one you pick. They're just like, "Hey, we have all 5.
Yeah.
Put them all in your cart. Figure out which one you wanna get." So yeah, but I think that dealers are gonna have to make a change, if they're gonna want to last, like, in the future, because with the Carvanas, the Vrooms, the Teslas, like we talked about in a previous episode and other things, they're going to continue to make the experience easier
Mhm.
and seamless. So if dealers can offer a comparable or even better experience than what these companies do, that's what's going to take them into the future and make them be, like, withstanding everything.
What's really crazy is at no point have you mentioned a salesperson
Right.
in that process.
Wasn't.
You sold yourself
I did. I sold
using that.
myself. Yep.
And if we have access to all of these salespeople, maybe there is something to be said about the salesperson enhancing that experience from a dealership level. Like instead of how do we get rid of a salesperson, maybe we're looking at how do I make this salesperson better than what Carvana offers.
Yeah, because to your point, there wasn't a part in the process of my car buying with Carvana that I was like, I had a question that I needed a salesperson to answer. I don't know if that's because I did enough research ahead of time or I kinda just looked at the car and I was like, "I like this two-door Mercedes convertible, it's nice, but I didn't feel like I had all these additional questions I needed somebody to, like, validate for me. So I don't know if with salespeople, how they can maybe be, like you said, like, tweaked in a way where they're more assisting the process and making it more seamless versus just being there to answer questions and to, like,
Yeah.
more.
Some of the best salespeople I've seen already know what their customers want. They're already engaged in that process before the customer starts looking or shows up. And when they do show up, like they know their drink order,
Mm,
they know specifically what to bring them, all of that stuff. And so we're talking about continuing to enhance that,
right.
I think is something that they could really lean on to try and counteract the Carvanas. Because the cool thing about a dealership is on Carvana, you're looking at it online, right?
Yep.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even with the delivery, there's still a little wait. If I go to a dealership, I can get it today. That's the thing. So how do you incorporate that with the Carvana experience and marry them together? I think that's where the dealership's going to thrive if they can really figure out how to do that.
I just had an aha moment.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Where are the dealers who are targeting the Carvana and Vroom customers from a service standpoint? You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if I was that customer who bought their vehicle through Carvana, I still gotta get my car serviced somewhere.
Yeah.
How do I decide where to get my car serviced? Maybe if there were dealers that said like, "Hey, we like customers who do this. We would love to service your vehicle," like something inviting like that. That I don't know, just an idea.
Like, could they actually partner with Carvana, you think, to be like in your local area? You sold this car, hand me your list of all the CDJR cars that you have, and I'll offer to service them with a 10% discount.
Yeah, something like that to
Mm.
make it so that you don't, because that's one of the complaints, I'll say. There's a couple complaints with, buying online. You don't have the connection point to if something goes wrong
Yeah.
with the vehicle or there's an issue, what do you do? And then what I've heard from dealers is they don't always give those consumers the best experience because they're kind of like already mad that they
Yeah.
bought from the competitor of so making them feel more welcomed, that would maybe pivot and have them switch so that they buy the next car from you instead of from Carvana again.
Yeah, and so you're adding in the emotional component there, and you're talking in 2 different ways. So one,
Right.
the dealer's already slighted because you didn't buy from them, which is something that I experience, and then they still have to get service, so if you wanna make some money from this transaction done by somebody else,
Right.
here's where you do it.
Mhm.
That's genius.
That's my idea.
I think that, one of the probably the best quotes I heard, and this was before the slap, but Will Smith said that you only have how you make a person feel. Like, that's what we're here for, and we impact them that way. And in the car dealership, there is a ton of opportunity to impact a person's emotions to get them to spend their money with you.
There is.
And Carvana takes away they remove some of that emotional component, but
Lot.
they also remove the friction, which makes you feel better.
Yes.
So I think you got to add that into this process and make sure that it's working for somebody else.
I
When
agree.
when you talk about your financing for Carvana,
Mm.
do they give you specifics on the bank you are using, or did they finance it? Like, walk me through how that went.
So it was interesting. I didn't know that's one thing that they could work on, maybe they could partner with us. I didn't necessarily know who I was getting my loan with until it was already funded.
Okay.
don't know if that's a red flag or my naivety or whatever, but since it was so seamless and so easy, it was like, "Oh, this is what the rate you're gonna be, and this is this." I was like, "Okay, great." And I just kept moving forward and forward, and they're like, "Click this," and it's actually a hard pull. I'm like, "Okay." So I just kept going through it, and then finally, when I signed everything, I was like, "Who's my loan with?" And it ended up being some lender that I wasn't really familiar with,
Mm,
but maybe I don't know, maybe they have a partnership with Carvana or something, and they're, like, white labeled, I don't know, but I've made payments to this lender for the 36 months or whatever. I just didn't really recognize them. So
yeah.
I didn't have any connection to the lender through the process, but since the process was so easy, I didn't stop to think like, "Well, what lenders are my options?" I didn't even have that
So
thought.
you didn't even go into, like, should I go to my own bank and get my own loan or any of that?
They made it almost too easy. It's almost like, in Amazon where you can click the button and then you just
Yes.
end up buying. You're like, "I did buy," because it doesn't even some sites it would, like, spin and give you the opportunity to hit the back button.
Yeah.
Amazon, you hit click, it's already purchased.
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
bought stuff
simple.
between episodes today.
You sure did.
Huh.
But for this, I was, like, going through the process, it was so fast, 20 minutes, and then I'm like, "Oh, I already have a loan." So then I'm like, "Okay."
That's
That's
crazy.
I mean, they have really good engineers and their UI is powerful. All
Wow.
that, yeah.
Wow. I've been looking at some cars on a Carvana website for a minivan, and they tell you all of this stuff, and they're very transparent. It doesn't feel like you have to do anything,
Right, yep.
but at the same time, they're also making you think, okay, you should do it.
Yeah,
So they're very good with this My Ninja business, which
yep,
I like.
yep.
And yeah, I love the speed and
Mhm.
access and how it's a disruptor in the car game. Now, I don't know if we talked about this already, but you had mentioned that everybody was saying that they would fail, right? So in the beginning, they mentioned that. Could you walk us through what that was, what that,
Well, there were some rumblings over the past couple years that I've seen dealers when they're talking about the Carvanas of the world and CarMax and others that have been, like, disruptors,
Mhm.
and they love whenever there's, like, highs and flows with these companies. Whenever they have like a downturn, dealers like to celebrate and cheer and yeah, they're down. But I really would challenge dealers to not use that as an opportunity to like try to come at them, use it as an opportunity to learn because just as much as they fall, they rebound and pivot. And just how we saw in the beginning of this episode, you mentioned that they sold what almost 500,000
Yeah.
cars
Yeah.
in a year and they've been 33% year over year increase in growth.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about what they're doing. There's something to learn from that instead of like wanting them to fail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of wanting them to fail, use them as an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. I love that.
S-
I love that. That is good stuff. I think that all of these pieces are super important, especially as you look to the future.
Yeah, it's
Because
not
it,
going away.
no.
They're not going away.
But you know what else isn't going away?
What?
People needing to have a car. So, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna need that no matter what. Whatever channel it comes to, just master it and figure out how to be the best person. I do love so if you had bought this car from Carvana and they had shared with you who your lender was, would you have felt even more comfortable with that process? Or is it like if you went back right now, knowing everything you know, would you go through the same 20 minutes and just take whatever lender was there?
I think I would have because the experience was so seamless and easy. I don't think that would have mattered to me as much. All I cared about was my interest rate. Like I
Mm,
just wanted that to be low.
yeah.
So if that was low, I was like, I'm good to go with whatever. I didn't even think to like let me shop different lenders and compare. And I didn't go through all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would go through the same thing again.
So you got that transparency of rate pretty quick.
Very, very quick. And I don't know if the reason why they don't lead with the lender is because either that lender is not super well known outside of them partnering with Carvana, or if they think maybe that's going to cause somebody, that's a friction point. That's going to
Yeah.
cause somebody to pause and say, I don't know XYZ Bank. When you compare my Navy Fed or my USA or my. So they didn't even give me the opportunity to do that. So I don't know if that's legal, but they just had me keep going. They just kept me going through the process. And yeah, so I don't know. How about let me flip that back to you?
Right.
Would you wanna know who the lender was before you commit if you had, like, a 2% rate?
Not if it was gonna prevent me from buying the car, right? So, if I needed like, I feel like you get so far into the process and you're so hyped up that then the lender, it doesn't matter if the rate feels good enough,
Right.
I'm going with it, because I don't like to have that indecision moment, and I'm very quick to pull the trigger on things. Like, you asked the question loading up your cart beforehand, and, like, no, I bought one of those meat spatulas today where you can break up ground beef because I was like, "I saw this and I want it, and I got it on Amazon, it'll be here in 2 days." Like, I don't have any ability to sit still and not make a decision. So Carvana is like a dangerous place for me. I could end up with a whole fleet of vehicles if I'm not careful, you
Oh.
know? So I love the thought of being able to do it quickly and move through it. And I don't even care about the bank as long as the interest rate is good and it's not fraudulent. Like those are my two
You know
things.
what's interesting? I don't know because I didn't look for it, but I don't even know if they let you come in with outside financing.
Ooh.
Not 100% sure about that. If they do, it's probably really grayed out and, like, really small because they wanna avoid that because 'cause I'm sure they have some sort of connection point with that lender that they work with, but, yeah, I don't even know if they let you bring your own financing in to buy a vehicle through them. Not sure.
Interesting.
But I also know that because the stage I am in my life, I don't have a lot of, like, loans in general, don't own my home, um, so I'm not, like, loyal to a lender like maybe some other people would be who's like, "I've had my home through this and my other cars through these lenders," so, like, maybe somebody like that, it would be more difficult for them because
It
they have this loyalty to this lender, whereas me, I don't. I'm like, "I like all the lenders," like, I don't really have, like a loyalty thing with them.
Yeah, I mean, my loyalty does run deep to the bank that I work with and,
Mhm.
like, going through them for my loans and everything like that, and I think that there is something to be said for that.
Yeah,
If you can gather that loyalty from a customer, they'll stick with you.
right.
So, that is huge,
Mm.
and Carvana broke that.
We'll have to check that later.
Yeah, we do. We definitely do, and the outside financing piece is fascinating.
It is.
Ooh, boy.
It is.
So if I'm a dealer, right, how do I combat the Carvana having this finance process, going through and making it super easy in 20 minutes? What are your ideas for what I could do?
Well, shameless plug. I think that dealers should leverage a AI-powered solution like Upstart because it gives the dealer the ability to essentially take any customer that is looking to get a price and see where they stand without any risk to them
Yeah.
or to the dealer. So they can see exactly what they could be approved for, and as that being have that be the starting point,
Yeah.
and then let that take them where they want to go.
That's interesting because not everybody's going to qualify for a Carvana
No.
loan. Carvana doesn't have something for every buyer.
No, they don't.
And so it's good to have those things in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the approval time. I think when we're talking about your 20 minutes for Carvana, like we're approving your loan in under a minute. So you get a similar experience without all that back and forth and you get a soft pull, right? Instead of the hard pull. So you're not damaging your credit, which is huge.
That is huge. I feel like I have a friend who had really, really challenged credit, and she told me, like, the worst experience of her life was not knowing and going into a car dealership and having, like, 12 banks
Yeah.
pulled, and, like, I just feel like it's unethical to, like, do that to somebody and not tell them what's happening, and
So bad.
then you leave, you're like, "How do I get all these off my credit
Yep.
report?" It's like it's sad that some dealers are doing this, so I think having a soft pull option is the way that you can make everybody happy.
And just in case anybody is not familiar, because we talk to all people here,
Yes.
a soft pull is where they can assess your credit and say, is this person creditworthy enough for me to say, yeah, I'm more than likely going to give you this loan at this rate, and then we'll do a hard pull later. So it's like a pre-approval that you would get from another bank. We just do it on a soft pull, which allows you to see where your credit's at and know what you're going to do without harming it so it goes down in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good piece. In case if everybody else knew that, I'm sorry. I just like to be an explainer. So that is really cool. And I think that all these tools we've given some really good stuff to a dealer to talk about how to combat Carvana,
Yeah.
and what you can go in with and how you can be successful. But it seems like frictionless process,
Yep.
speed of purchase, the ability to visualize what that car is going to look like, and feeling like they care about you enough and they trust you enough to bring you a vehicle and let you try it out.
Definitely. And having the digital tools to be able to support an experience like a Carvana at your dealership are important because it's not going away.
It is not. It is not. So you got to really get in touch with it, wrap your hands around it, and make your experience to all of your customers as seamless as possible if you want to combat it.
Bang.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. It was fantastic.
I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Thank you so much for watching that. We answered a ton of questions regarding Carvana. If you're interested in this and you want to hear more, we have a special episode coming up where we're going to go through at least the top 10 questions that are asked about the car dealership world, and we're going to give you world-class answers. Stay tuned.